where you'll be learning how you can JIRA for a software development project as a business analyst, or whatever it is that you're doing, right, as a business analyst, because now that is why we're here today. We're here because we are budding, business analysts, right? So just before we start the session, right, I just want us to take a moment to invite, people, colleagues, friends, sisters, or part of our families that we feel like, could benefit from this session today. If you know anyone that has been trying to, break into business analysis, but has not been able to do that, I want us to take a minute right now to share the link to this session with them. All right, so I'm going to introduce myself in a bit. And if you see me looking here, I have my screen here and my camera here, okay? So I'm going to introduce myself in a bit, but before I do that, I want to get to know each and everyone on this call today. So what I want you to do for me right now is put your name and where you're joining us from in the chat box. All right, put your name and where you're joining us from in the chat box. So I can see Adedayo's comment. Is it also applicable to project management, please? Yes, it is. So, project managers and, business analysts use JIRA, to manage software development projects. So put your name and where you're joining us from in the chat box. I want to get to know everybody on this call. I see Setlin joining from the UK. Hi, Setlin. Welcome to today's masterclass. I need more. So I'm not going to proceed with the session if I don't get more names in the chat. All right, so I just want to know that I have people listening to me. All right, more people, please. I'm looking in the chat right now. More people. I see Adedayo from the UK, Okpeyemi from the UK. Fantastic. All right, so just to ask us, seeing as we're talking about JIRA today, how many of us have actually worked on JIRA here? If you have, just put an emoji. Give me any emoji of choice if you have worked with JIRA before. Any emoji at all. So if I don't see an emoji, that means I don't have people here that have used JIRA. And that is fantastic. Okay, I see Muiwa. All right, great. Okay, that's good. So we are going to kickstart this session, with an introduction. Who are we at Analytics and how do we do what it is that we do today? All right, so Analytics is a leading educational technology company that is focused on providing specialized training in technology skills and also delivering comprehensive data consulting services for organizations. Now, for the past almost, 5 years, we have spent that time building talent, for the technology workforce, and we have been able to help over 3,000 people, transition from the classroom with no prior experience. Now, over 3,000 professionals with no prior tech experience transition from the classroom into their very first job in tech across the different regions like the UK, the US, Canada, Europe, Africa, and also Asia. Now, here at Analytics, we are committed to making the technology sector more accessible, to people of the minority group and also to Blacks like us through premium training in data analytics, data engineering, data science, financial analytics, HR analytics, agile project management, and Scrum Master professional, cybersecurity, AI engineering, and finally, the reason we are all here today, business analysis as well. So we have a wonderful, wonderful team of instructors from leading global companies like PwC, Apple, Microsoft, McKinsey, and Amazon. And these facilitators bring a wealth of real world experience. These are people that have walked the walk and talked the talk. All right. They bring a wealth of real world experience and they are also dedicated to delivering an engaging practical learning experience that ensures that you receive the maximum value from your investment with us in the future. All right, so moving on, we also got into the Alberta Catalyzer Velocity Program in October 2024. Now, my colleagues are going to be dropping, the link to the attendance form in the chat. All right, so just make sure to stick with us till the end of the program. the end of this session, my colleagues will be dropping a link. Make sure you fill that link with your details because this session is recorded. And in order for you to get the recording of this session and also the slides that I'm going to be using here today, we need to have your details. All right, so make sure to fill the form, put in your email, and so you can get the recording and also the slide. So there are a lot of wonderful resources that are linked on the slide, just like this one. And once you get the slide, all you want to do is click on read more here. So that's why it's very important to make sure that you fill the attendance form. All right, so who is this person that has been speaking to you for the past 5 minutes? All right, my name is Elizabeth Nana. I'm a product manager and a senior agile project manager here at Analytics, and I have half a decade of experience in product and also project management. I'm a skilled leader, if I do say so myself, and I'm a coach for agile teams, and I have successfully guided over 1,000 individuals with no prior agile experience into making a smooth transition into project management. Like I said, I've trained over 1,000 professionals across 4 continents, and my experience also spans multiple sectors, including health tech, healthcare technology, financial technology, and educational technology. We have also been able to apply my deep knowledge of agile methodologies. That's okay. Enough about me. So let's just move on, into the crux of the matter. What exactly are we here to do today? Why are we here? All right, so we're going to start off by learning how to write agile user stories on JIRA, using that to manage a software, development project. We move on to the pathway, your pathway to becoming a business analyst with us, the Analytics Growth Internship Program. And finally, if you stick with me till the end of this program, you will be learning about our special discount offer to you. So let's start off. Why does JIRA matter to business analysts? Why do you think that as a business analyst, you should know how to use JIRA? And not just know how to use JIRA, but know how to use JIRA, efficiently, know how to use JIRA very well. One, JIRA is the #1 agile project management tool in tech. All right, hands down. Now we have a lot of them. We have Monday.com, we have, Zoho projects, we have quite a number of them. All right, but JIRA is the #1, and it's #1 for a reason. All right, there are a lot of hidden features that organizations love to use when it comes to JIRA. And that's why JIRA is #1. So if you know how to use JIRA as a business analyst, that's an added tool in your toolbox. All right, so I'm going to be explaining further, in coming slides about why it is important, to have this skill. In as much as a lot of people are going to think, oh, I thought this was a project management thing. But why is this important to business analysts as well? I'll be explaining in coming slides. Now, another reason why business analysts should know JIRA, is because most teams, manage their user stories, which I'll be explaining once again, requirements and releases directly from JIRA. They use JIRA to manage all of this. They use JIRA to track their tasks, track progress that they're making in their project, and so on and so forth. Now, the next is that business analysts bridge the gaps, right? As a business analyst, I'm sure everyone on here wants to, become a business analyst. As a business analyst, you need to know that you are the middleman. Okay, you bridge the gap between the business needs and also the development execution. Basically saying you are the person standing between the technical stakeholders, like the developers, designers, and so on and so forth, and then the non-technical stakeholders, like your project sponsor, your CEO, and so on, even the end users, right? And JIRA is where both worlds meet. So how do you break down the business needs? You've gotten you've gotten requirements, you went to do your elicitation, you've gotten requirements that you need, but you now need to translate that requirement to the development team. How do you do that? JIRA is where you do this. And finally, mastering JIRA gives you a competitive advantage. All right, not every business analyst out there know how to use JIRA, but like I said, it's a secret tool. It's something a lot of people don't really know why they should know how to use it, but I'm going to be explaining, once again. So once again, just make sure to stick with me till the end of this session, all right? Because we're going to be doing a deep dive. We'll go into JIRA. We'll have, a practical. We'll do it together, hands-on on this session. And you also want to have the recording of this session so you can watch it back later on. So now let's look at the real world process overview. When it comes to just getting your requirements from your stakeholders and then translating it on JIRA to the development team, what do you do? All right, this is just a summary, but I'm going to try as much as possible to walk us through it. Now, understand that we have, about 1 hour to complete this session. I cannot complete everything in 1 hour. I cannot do a deep dive end to end into JIRA in 1 hour. So if you want to learn more, just make sure, you register for its analytics, business analysis program. All right. And then you'll be able to do a deep dive, learn everything end to end. This is just a sneak peek. So we start off with, the first part of the process is to capture stakeholder needs. You need to understand exactly what it is that your stakeholders want. And when we talk about stakeholders now, I'm talking both the internal stakeholders and also the external stakeholders. All right. Your end users and, again, external stakeholders. Understand exactly what it is that they need, because you want to build a process. You want to optimize a process or build a solution to the problem. So you can't do that if you don't understand what the problem is. So you want to understand the problem and not just understand it, but document it. All right, document it. And then we move on to breaking them into epics. Now, this is the tricky part. All right, and I'm also going to be explaining what epics are in coming slides. So not to worry. So you need to break them down, break these requirements that you've gotten from your different stakeholders down into epic, and then you further slice the epics into user stories, what we call user stories, and make sure you add acceptance criteria to that. Then the next thing you want.
Hello, everyone. Don't worry, Elizabeth will be back very soon. Please let's just give her a little bit minute. She'll be back soon.
So sorry about that. There was a little technical glitch. I think my Zoom is glitching. Just give me a minute to keep sharing my screen. I need to figure out what the issue is. Just make sure it doesn't come up again. All right, I think this is it. Let's see. Okay, great. We are back. All right, now let it load up a little bit. My slides keep going off. Okay, great. So I, left off at, the product backlog. Now, I said that the product backlog is basically a list of every single thing that needs to be done on that project. All right, a list of every single thing. Think of, moving houses. Think of you trying to move houses, and then you sit down and you write down a list of every single thing that you need to buy in your new apartment. That's what a product backlog is, a list of every single thing. It could be 1 to 100, it could be 1 to 200, but just know that that is what your product's backlog is. So your backlog lists all the work that needs to be done on a project, and the product owner is responsible for the product backlog. That's including its content, its availability, and also its priority ordering. So going back to the analogy, say you want to move houses and you're writing down a list of different things that you would like to buy in your new apartment. For example, you'd like to buy a new TV, you'd like to buy a refrigerator, refrigerator, and so on and so forth. Now, you'd agree with me, especially because all of us here were working, okay? And a lot of time.
Hello, everyone. Please let's give Elizabeth some minutes again so that she'll be back shortly. Our network. So please just let's calm down. Hold on. She's back. So she would continue from where she stopped.
Okay, it just keeps switching off. Just going to have to try to, let's see what we can do. Do a little bit of troubleshooting. All right. Okay. Let's share that screen again. Great. So sorry for all of the interruptions. Now, these are some of the things that come with tech. Now, once you work on working, you work on a software development project, you understand that sometimes there'll be little glitches, bugs here and there. But that's why you're there and you're working with your team to try and fix these issues. You can never rely on technology. Now, we went back to our house moving analogy where you have a list of a lot of things that you'll need to buy in your new apartment. You have your refrigerator, you have your TV, you want to buy a new TV, you have furniture and the rest of them. Now, a lot of us here, we earn paychecks and, sometimes you have to wait till the end of the month to be able to tick some things off of that list, right? And you can't tick all of them at once. So you have to prioritize. You have to say, you know what, this is more important. I need a refrigerator more than I need a TV right now. So let me buy that first. Now, that's exactly the same thing, the product owner or the business analyst would be doing here. When it comes to the product backlog, you're in charge of prioritizing, you're in charge of ordering the product backlog, you're in charge of the content of that product backlog. Now, a product backlog is never complete and it evolves along with the product and the environment in which it will be used. Now, remember I said the product backlog lists all the work that needs to be done on the project. Now, a lot of times the work never ends. There are new tasks coming up here and there that you keep adding to your product backlog, and that causes the backlog to evolve. But not to worry, you still just need to prioritize. All right, so now let's move on. This is a snapshot of what your product backlog would look like on JIRA. I'll be showing us that shortly. All right, but this is what it looks like. So you have a backlog here on JIRA, and then from this backlog, you can move it into your sprint backlog and then move it to your board. Okay, so once again, this is linked on here. So just make sure to fill the attendance form so that you can get access to these slides and then, just access the links that are on the slides. So let's talk about epics, features and user stories, because you cannot talk about, just going, you can't move on to JIRA and start writing user stories if you don't exactly understand what epics are. All right. So when we talk about epics, epics are, epics it's a large body of work. All right. It represents multiple features or many stories, and they can take months to build. And it also works at the release level. The epic is what the end user tends to focus on. So now let's use a house building project. This is my favorite analogy to use. So you're building a house. Now, an epic of that house could be to build a smart kitchen. All right. Now that's a large body of work. If we have people on here that, you live in houses. I mean, every one of us live in houses, right? You look at your kitchen, you can imagine the amount of work that went into building that kitchen. Now let's imagine you're trying to build a smart kitchen, with smart appliances. You walk into the kitchen, the lights come on, you clap your hands and the heat extractor comes on and all of that fun stuff, right? You use a remote to control the shutters in your kitchen. Fantastic. So you're trying to build that. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there. So the smart kitchen could be the epic, because there are a lot of things you need to do in the kitchen. You need to install the heat extractor, for example. You need to install the cabinet and so on and so forth. So your epic is, it represents multiple features, multiple tasks, multiple user stories. And that smart kitchen could take months to build. It could take 1 month to build the kitchen and fully furnish it to your taste, right? And it is what the homeowner focuses on. So the homeowner is going to tell you, I want a smart kitchen. That person is not focusing on the nitty-gritty. The person is just telling you, putting it to you that I want a smart kitchen. That is what an epic is. Now, when we talk about features are smaller than epics, but they are larger than individual user stories. Now, features can take weeks, possibly one or more iterations to build. And they are also what customers or product owners tend to focus on. So now an example of a feature in our kitchen analogy, in our smart kitchen analogy, could be, your kitchen island, for example, right? You want to have a kitchen island, you want to have, you want to install Internet of Things, appliances in your kitchen. Internet of Things, those smart appliances, once you clap, the shutters come on, the heat extractor comes on, you walk in, the light comes on, and so on and so forth. Right now, those are bigger than individual user stories, because we still have to break it down to smaller tasks for people to work on, right? But that's a feature, and it is smaller than the epic. It is housed in the epic. The kitchen island, or the Internet of Things applications, is going to be housed in the smart kitchen. Now that's our epic. So the epic is sort of like an umbrella, right? And then you have your features in there, and then finally you have your user stories. Now, user stories are the smallest increment of value. User stories could take days or perhaps 1 week or two to build at most, right? And that's what the development team tends to focus on. So an example of a user story, in this smart kitchen could be the installation of the tiles, right? The contractors, the people that are building this kitchen, they're focusing on the minute details, the things that they need to do, installing the tiles, installing the cabinet, installing the cabinet handles, spraying the cabinet to your desired color, using a spray paint and all of that. Now those are epics. All right, because that's the smallest, unit of work, or the smallest increment of value that they can add to that. So that's that about, epics, features, and user stories. Now let's talk about how to write an agile user story. So the very first thing you want to do when you want to write a user story is you want to define your end user. Who is the person that is going to be using this product? All right, because you're always writing, from the name, it says user story. You're always writing this story from the perspective of the user. As a college student, if your product is focused, is going to be serving college students. As a parent, if your product is going to be serving parents. As a homeowner, if you're building a house for someone, right? You're always focused on writing this user story from the perspective of the person or the group of people that are going to be using it. You never write your user story by saying, oh, as a business analyst, I'm the one working on this. You don't do that. You always write it from the perspective of the end user. And you can't do that if you don't identify who this end user is going to be in the first place. So now we have a little example here. Say we are trying to, build a nanny cam, right? For the people on here who have toddlers, you know what a nanny cam is, but I'm going to explain. Those little cameras you can put in your baby's room, and connect it to your phone. So you can, wherever you are in the house, your baby's in, their crib, and then you're in the kitchen. You can watch your baby through the baby monitor on your phone. All right. Now we're trying to build a nanny cam here, and we're trying to write a user story for this nanny cam. We're going to start off with as a parent, because again, remember, you want to identify who your product is going to be serving. We're building nanny cams. It's for parents, obviously, for people that just gave birth. So as a parent, now the next step is to specify what they want. What does that parent want? What is the solution that you're offering? So for example, as a parent, I want to check on my sleeping baby without entering the room, right? That is what this parent wants. That is the solution you are offering. I want to check on my sleeping baby without entering the room. And then finally, number 3, you want to describe the benefits. What will your user gain from using your products? So let's start again. As a parent, I want to check on my sleeping baby without entering his room so that I can know he's safe without disturbing him. Full stop. That is your user story. So as a parent, I want to be able to check on my sleeping baby without entering the room so that I can know he is safe without disturbing him. Now, there's a format. There's a method to this madness. There's a format when it comes to writing user stories. Again, define your end user as a user, right? I want to, what do they want? So that benefits, all right? As a user, I want to, so that. Now, you want to also make sure that you're adding acceptance criteria to, your user stories. So what are acceptance criteria? Acceptance criteria is really what determines that this user story is done. What determines that this task is done. Now, acceptance criteria serves 2 purposes, right? The first is it helps to convey exactly what you want, exactly what you have in mind here to the developers that are going to be working on it, right? A lot of times, we when we're communicating with people, we're trying to tell people what we want. If you don't explain properly, they can't get it. If you just tell someone, I want to build a smart kitchen, that person is going to build a smart kitchen and probably furnish it to his or her taste. So you want to let the person know exactly what it is that you want, right? I want to build a smart kitchen. It must have black tiles. I want black tiles. The window blinds must be white. The kitchen island must be granite, L-shaped. You are making sure you are conveying exactly what you want to this person. Now, that's what an acceptance criteria does. It lets the developers know exactly what you want and how you want that particular feature to work. All right. So, and it also helps the tester that is going to be testing that product to know exactly what to test for, to know what to look out for. For example, we say an example of an acceptance criteria for this particular user story for our nanny cam is that an alert should be sent to the registered smartphone if a problem is detected, maybe if motion is detected or the baby starts crying. Your phone should probably buzz. So you're in your kitchen, your baby is upstairs in their room, in their crib, and then your baby starts crying and you get a notification on your phone. We are saying that that's how we want this nanny cam to behave. All right, that's how we want the mobile application connected to this nanny cam to behave. Now, what you have been able to successfully do is tell the developers exactly how you want it to work. And not just that, we have also been able to tell the tester. So once the developer says, you know what, I'm done, come and test this. The tester is going to look at this acceptance criteria and say, this is what Elizabeth said, should happen. She says, if there is motion in the room, an alert should be sent to the phone. So let's test that out. So now the quality assurance tester, the QA tester, could probably have someone go into that room, right? And the person goes far away and they connect their phone and you ask that person to move inside the room to see if an alert is sent. Now, if no alert is sent, there is a problem. And then he or she goes back to the developer to say, hey, look, you have not fulfilled this acceptance criteria, so you are not done with this particular feature. Now, those are the 2, reasons we use acceptance criteria. Now, the top tips, for writing good user stories is you want to make sure that you develop a persona profile to visualize your end user. Basically, you want to make sure that you have defined and identified your end user. Now, like I said earlier, always make sure you write from your end user's perspective. Avoid adding too many technical details early. You don't want to confuse the developers. And also try not to add too many acceptance criteria. So in as much as I said, it's a way of conveying what you need to be done. You don't want to have 50 things on your, on your list of acceptance criteria. So just keep it simple and keep it brief. Keep your stories brief also. And if you need to break up your stories, break it up. So you don't say, as a parent, I want to check on my sleeping baby without entering the room so that I can know that he's safe without disturbing him. And I can also hear when he's crying. And then when he moves, I'll be able to. You don't need to make it so long. Just keep it very brief and very straight to the point to help the people that are going to be working on it. And finally, make sure they meet your definition of done. Now, when we say definition of done, we're talking about acceptance criteria. So once you write your acceptance criteria, make sure that it meets your definition of what it means for this project or for this particular task to be done. So if you have 3 things on your acceptance criteria, is sort of like a check mark for the developers to work with. Now, once those 3 things are ticked off the list, what it means is that we are done with that particular user story. So let's take a look at an example before we try to practicalize this. Now, we have said an epic is a large, body of work. Epics are for stakeholders, users, and customers, while user stories are for the team. So look at this user story. This is an example. As a college student, I would like to see the total price of my cart as I add items so that I can fit my budgets. All right, so now let's assume we're building for people that shop online a lot, like myself. If you use Amazon, if you use Temu is the new popular one, Fashion Nova, and the rest of them. Now, you know that when you're adding things to your carts, right? Once you're adding things to your cart, you're able to see the total in the summary before you check out. All right. Now, that is an example of, us breaking down that requirements into a user story. Now, we're building a shopping application for college students. And now I've identified the end user as a college student. As a college student, I would like to see the total price of my cart as I add items so I can fit my budget. So if my budget is £50, by the time I add things to my cart and it gets to £45, I'll be able to see it. I don't get a shocker when I'm making payments. All right. Now, this is probably going to result in a cart summary right near the shopping cart icon. So that's a lot of work. Let's just dive right into our case study so that we can go, on JIRA. But before we do that, I want us to put something in the chat. I want to know that I have people listening to me despite the technical glitches. All right, just put something in the chat. Ibrahim, I see you have a question. Also put your question in the chat. All right, so once I'm done with the session, I will go ahead to answer that. All right, Muyiwa, I see you. Thank you for that. I need 2 more people before I move on with the session. I need to make sure I have at least 2 more people listening to me right now. So I have Muyiwa, fantastic. Anyone else? Rachel and Eunice, thank you so much, all 3 of you. All right, so now let's take a look at this case study. We're building a mobile application, right? Called Quick Hire. Now, Quick Hire is, it's a mobile job application. So think of like your Indeed and so on and so forth. We are building something like that. Now, Quick Hire is a tech startup building a simple mobile application to help job seekers search, save, and apply for jobs quickly and efficiently. All right, now the product owner has outlined a key requirements. Users should be able to search for jobs. They should be able to save the ones they're interested in, and they should be able to apply when they're ready. Admins should also be able to post and manage job listings through a dashboard. All right, now the business analyst has been tasked with breaking down these requirements into user stories and adding them to the product backlog in JIRA. So because of time, we're not going to take everything. We're going to pick the first 3. So you want to search for jobs and you want to be able to save the jobs as well. All right, so the first step, you have gathered the requirements. You documented what the stakeholders need. All right, now you're trying to break it down on JIRA. Now you're penning down the following high requirements, high level requirements from the discussions we have had. The first one says users should be able to search for jobs using keywords. Now, if you want to search for a job, for example, you go on a job site now, on a job board, and you're trying to search for business analyst roles. You can search for business analysts, and then it just populates, it brings out all the available business analyst roles. All right, so users should be able to search for jobs using keywords. That's the first requirement. Now, the second requirement says users should be able to filter job by location and type. For example, if you're looking for a remote job, a full-time job, there's a filter there that you can click on, and then it asks you, are you looking for an internship? Are you looking for a part-time role? Are you looking for a full-time job? And you can select what it is you're looking for just to narrow down your search. You can also have a filter to select your location, to say, oh, I'm looking for business analyst roles in Canada, or I'm looking for business analyst roles in Manchester, to be able to narrow down your search. All right. And finally, the third requirement says users should be able to save job listings and view them later. Users should be able to save job listings and view them later. So are we ready to go into JIRA now? Let's take a look at what that looks like. All right. So while we give that time to load up, because of time, I have gone ahead to create a project on JIRA, put some things in the backlog, but I am also going to be walking us through how we can do this from scratch. All right, so you want to create, first off, you want to try to create a new project on JIRA. So you see the project icon here, and there's a plus sign right here on the left-hand side of my screen. So you just want to click on that plus. You see it says create project. Now it's going to open up these different templates for you. Now, the beautiful thing about JIRA is you can use it for anything. You can use it for software development, you can use it for service management, marketing, human resources, even for personal things, okay? If you're trying to track your to-dos for the day, you can also use JIRA. But you know why we're here today, all right? Software development project. So we are going to pick software development. Now, once you pick this, it opens up more templates for you. You have the Kanban template, you have the Scrum, you have top level planning, cross team planning. We are going to choose Scrum for this particular project. All right, so you just have to click on Scrum. Now, once you click on Scrum, it gives you an overview of, what Scrum is and how Scrum board works. So you can go through this, read it to properly understand, and then you click on use these templates. So once you click on that, it asks you to choose a project type. So you have team managed and you also have company managed. Company managed is, premium, is for companies. So a large organization that is looking to use JIRA, they can select the company managed project and they'll pay for it. Okay, JIRA actually charges them for it. But this one is free. So because of this presentation, we're going to choose the team managed project. So just click on select a team managed project. Now it's going to ask you to add project details. What's the name of your project? Let's call this masterclass projects. That's the name of this project. Now, something is going to happen here. JIRA just generated a key for you. Now, that's because this name is very long. So JIRA just shortened it and called it MP. So wherever you see MP, you know that it's talking about the masterclass project. Now you're able to also choose an access level if you want this to be a private board or limited. I'm just going to choose private for the sake of this presentation. And then we click on create projects. Just wait for that to load up. And just like that, you have been able to create a project. You see, it says JIRA project successfully created. However, it's asking you to invite your team members. So this is the part where you start to put in your team members' names and their email addresses. And then once you're done and you click on proceed, it sends an email notification to everybody and asks them to join this JIRA board. So again, right now we don't have team members. So we are going to skip this and, just click on skip. And just like that, we have a new project, all right? So you can see the different tabs here. You have your product backlog here. You have your product backlog here is empty. You have your board empty as well. So that's what you need to do. Those are the steps you need to take if you're trying to create a new project on JIRA. So I'm looking in the chat. Do we understand? Would you like me to go over it again? Let me know. All right, so Ifechukwu says, why are we picking Scrum? Now, fantastic question, okay? And, if you want to get a very, a deep answer, a deep response to that question, you would have to, just register for the business analysis program here at Analyst. I'm going to give you the short answer. All right, so when we talk about Scrum and Kanban, those are the two most popular frameworks that, we use in Agile project management. Now, remember, JIRA is a project management tool. So that's why we picked Scrum. But that does not mean we can't use Kanban. All right. I just picked Scrum for the sake of this particular presentation. So Muyiwa stays very clear. Fantastic. So that means we can move on. So now let's go back to the project that I created earlier, the quick hire project. So just clicking on it is going to open up the project for me. Let's give it some time to load. All right. So now we are on quick hire project. We want to go into the backlog. Remember, I talked about the backlog earlier. I said your backlog is a list of every single thing that you have to do in the project, all right? So what that means is this backlog would contain a lot of things. You could have, pay attention. Let's just add this here. It could contain plenty of things. It could contain 50 things that needs to be done in that project. Again, for the sake of this presentation, we are just going to be working with 3 because of time. All right. So now I have gone ahead to, just categorize my user stories. So the first one, we have smart job filters. The second one, we have keyword-based search. Remember, based on our case study, all right? Keyword-based search. And finally, we have save job to my list. So let's take a look at this one. So now I put in the user story here. Remember, we say always identify who your end user is going to be. We're creating a job board, all right, for searching for jobs. So of course, our end users are job seekers. So as a job seeker, I want to filter jobs by location and type so that I can narrow down the results. All right, so I've been able to define who your end user is, who, the what, and the why. All right, as a job seeker, I want to filter jobs by location and type so that I can narrow down the results. Now, I went ahead to add 3 acceptance criteria here. The first one is the filters should include job type, location, if the job is remote, on-site, and all of that. Now, I'm letting the developer that is going to work on this task know exactly what I expect to see, so that the person doesn't just go and add a filter that is showing dates. All right. Now I'm telling the person what the filter should include: job type, location, remote, and on-site. Those are the 3 things I want this filter to include. So I've told, that developer, I've put it there as the acceptance criteria. Now, number 2, I say multiple filters can be selected. So that means you can select a filter for remote job and also, whether it's a full-time role or a contract role, and also another filter for the location. So you can select multiple filters at once. I'm also communicating that to the developer that that's the behavior I expect to see for this particular feature. And then finally, I say the result updates instantly. So once you put in a filter, so you put in location, Manchester, it should immediately load and show the jobs available in Manchester. So the results should update immediately. The filter has been applied. So I just put 3 here. Of course, it can be more than 3, but I put 3 here. And this is just me trying to communicate to the developer who is going to be working on this task what exactly I want to see, right? So whoever jumps on this task knows exactly what I want. They know what the filter should include. They understand that you should be able to select multiple filters at once and that it should update the result immediately. So do we understand that? Let's look in the chat again. Do we understand that? Can you please, you spoke about Epic to feature to user stories. Now you're giving an example of a user story. Can you please show where the Epic is? Don't worry, I will. I'll get to it, Ibrahim. Just follow along. All right, I'll get to it. Okay, so Ifechuku says, I'm currently enrolled in BA. Fantastic. Wonderful to have you. So now let's take a look at the second one. All right, because of time. I added the second one. Now the third one, we are going to do it together. The second one says, as a job seeker, now it's the keyword-based search. As a job seeker, I want to search for jobs using keywords so that I can find relevant roles quickly. Meaning that when I get on your job board, I'm going to probably see 1,000 jobs, right? I want to be able to search. I'm a business analyst. I want to see roles available to business analysts. So I want to just be able to search business analysts and see the relevant roles for me quickly. I don't want to have to start seeing project management or data analysts, data scientists. I just want to see business analysts, and I want to be able to search for the job of a business analyst. All right. Now I've put the acceptance criteria there as well. I said a search bar should be available on the homepage. So once you get into the application, right at the top there on the homepage, there should be a search bar. Just like JIRA here, there's a search bar here. So I can use it to search for any projects that I want. All right. So a search bar is available on the homepage. I'm telling the developer and also the designer who is going to work on it what I want it to look like. Now, the keyword inputs should return relevant job results. So if you go on this job board and you put in business analyst, it should only return business analyst roles. You shouldn't put in business analyst and start seeing cybersecurity analysts, right? You should only see, what you put in there only shows relevant job results. That's what I'm telling them now. So they have to do a lot of work on the back end to make sure that this is done. So it's not just enough to have a search bar there. Once the person puts in any keyword in that search bar, it should show what is relevant to what that person is searching for. Now, number 3 says, if no jobs are found, a clear message should be shown. So if the person comes on this job board and he searches for business analyst roles, and there are no business analyst roles, we should have a clear message there saying maybe, sorry, no roles found. All right, just to let that person know, instead of it to just keep loading and loading and loading, let the person know that there are no jobs available for that particular search. All right, now these three things that I put here is what I want the developer to work on. I've communicated exactly how I want this particular feature to work to the developer. All right, and now let's go and do the third one together. The third one says save job to my list. So I want us to try. Let's just try, attempt it. Try to, come up with the user story for this third one. I'm in the chat, I'm watching. All right, let's just try to come up with the user story. So we already know the format. As a dash, I want to dash so that I can dash. All right, so let's just try to come up with a user story for this. I'm in the chat. The chat is actually looking very quiet. Is anyone going to try? Is anyone listening to me? Anybody? Ibrahim says we are here. Okay, Ibrahim, but do you want to try to write a user story? There are no right or wrong answers here, okay? So just try. We're here to learn. Of course, I'm going to go ahead to do it, but I want us to try as well. Let's just try and see if we understand it. Now, we already know the formats, right? You're identifying here, started midway, so someone else can. All right. Because of time, I'm going to do it, and then you can watch on this. As a job seeker, I would want to save this job application to enable me to apply when I'm much settled. Great, Ifechuku, but we can also simplify that. That is fantastic. Well done. At least you made an attempt. Well done. Fantastic work. Kion says, as a job seeker, I want to be able to save my job searches or favorite jobs so I can look at it later. Fantastic. So it just shows that at least we're listening, we understand. So, what Kion and Ifechuku did was, first off, they identified, who the end user is. Who is the person that's going to be using a job seeker? And they started off with, as a job seeker, I want to save this job application. I want to be able to save my job searches or my favorite job so that I can look at it later. That's exactly what a user story should look like, right? So as a job seeker, I want to save jobs. I'm just going to type that here. As a job seeker, I want to save jobs I'm interested in. So I can look at it later, so that I can look at them later. That's your user story. As a job seeker, I want to save jobs I'm interested in so that I can look at them later. And the beauty of this is, it doesn't mean that only what I just wrote on my screen is correct. What Ifechuku said was correct. What Kion said was correct as well. Now we want to add the acceptance criteria. Does anyone want to try? I want to see, before I'm done typing this, I want to see a lot of things in the chat box, for the acceptance criteria. Let's just put 3. Okay, we're just going to do 3. Let's add a numbered list. So let me see the chat box. Opeyemi says, as a job seeker, I want to be able to remove listed jobs if I do not want to apply to them anymore. Okay, fair. That is fair. But it doesn't apply to this particular user story that we're trying to write. But yes, Opeyemi, that's also another example of a user story you could add to, your list on your backlog. All right, so I want us to try acceptance criteria. As a job seeker, I want to save jobs I'm interested in so that I can look at them later. Now, how do you think this should behave? How do you think this particular feature should work? All right, so I'm going to do the first one for us. We can say a save button should appear on every job listing. So it could be a star. It could be a heart, right? You can make it a favorite. So once you make it a favorite, then it saves the job. So a save button, let's put it here, a save button should appear on every job listing. All right, so what this just means is that there is an option to save. So any job listing you see, They should show when saved jobs are expired or close to being expired. Great, great. Keon, I like how you're thinking. Keon is thinking like a business analyst already. All right. So he's saying that it should show when, jobs that you have saved are expired or close to being expired. Fantastic work. That is great as well. That this particular user story. So now that's an example of another user story that you can add to your backlog. Like I said, we can have as many as 50. All right. I just did 3. So for this particular one, we have said a save button should appear on every job listing, right? And then we can say the saved, jobs should persist, across sessions. What that means is even if you save a job right now and you log out and you log in back, as long as you're logging it back to your account, you still see that saved job. If you do multiple sessions in a day, you'll still be able to see that saved job. So it's not that once you save a job and then you log out or you close that mobile application and then you come back tomorrow, you won't be able to find the job that you saved. All right. So I'm letting the developers know that across multiple sessions, any job that is saved should remain there. So we can say saved jobs should persist across multiple sessions. So one more. Let's do one more. Let's do one more. Now, this is the easiest one. When you do something, how do you know that what you did was actually successful? That's an int. I just gave us an int. So one more, for the acceptance criteria. Anybody? I'm going to count to 3. All right. I'm going to count to 3. One more for the acceptance criteria. Just think of things that you want. Think of, if you have used Indeed, if you have used LinkedIn before, show saved when done. Exactly, Olawumi. So show saved when done is a bit vague. So Keon says there should be a clear message or icon indicating that the job was saved. Wonderful. We can write that, okay? So like Olawumi said, Olawumi was right. But when you say show saved when done, your developers are going to ask you, oh, Olawumi, how should we show it? So you want to say, if Echukwu says show successful after being saved, yes, you could say show a message or show a notification to confirm the saved job was successful. Fantastic. Okay, so there should be a notification indicating the job was saved. There should be a notification. Notification or clear message indicating the job was saved successfully. All right, so we have said it now. There should be a notification. It could be a pop-up right at the top of your screen to just say job saved successfully, right? Just something very simple so that the user that is trying to save these jobs, they know that when they click on the save button, it actually happened. If not, they'll keep clicking on, they'll not even understand that, that has already been saved. So, this is it, right? We can go ahead, we can go on and on, but we don't have so much time. All right, so we're just going to stop here for the 3 of them. So that is that for your user stories and your acceptance criteria. Now, I think that was Ibrahim, he said, I mentioned Epic. So I want to also show us how we can create, an Epic. Now, right here on my screen, JIRA has even made it easy for us. You can see on the left-hand side, you see epics, right? So it's asking you, telling you your large body of work, basically, and how, you can prioritize large chunks of work. So you see this plus sign right at the bottom that says create epic. You can either click on this plus sign or click on this plus sign at the top, the blue button. All right, so we'll click on this one. It says create epic. What should this epic be called? Let's call it job search experience. Job search experience. Right? We just created an epic. This is an epic. All right, job search experience. Now I'm going to, instead of clicking on this plus, I'm going to show you how to create an epic using this button at the top as well. Like I said, you can either use this one or use this one. So now if you click on this one is more robust. So it's going to ask you, what type of work are you trying to create? So you click on this and you call it an epic. So it's asking you, are you trying to create an epic, a user story, a bug, or a task? All right. So now we're trying to create an epic. So you click on epic. that is going to update. You update it to an epic. All right. Then you write what you want the epic to be. All right. What do you want the epic to be? Save job preferences. Save jobs. Or we can just say save jobs. All right. That's our epic. So now you can also change the color. Right now it is purple. Let's change it to something else. Let's change it to green. Okay. And then you go ahead and click on create. And just like that, your epic has been created. Now that you have created your epic, how do you match it to, so let's close all of this. How do you match it to the job or the user stories that you have created? So we have 2 user stories here and 1 task. Let's change this to a user story because it's not a task, it's a user story. So we change it to story. Now, how do you add epic? You can see it right here. It says add epic. You can add epic from here. So let's add save jobs as this epic. It has been added. So you see save job here. Okay, I don't think it was added successfully. Save jobs. Here, you have your epic here. And then let's add another epic to the smart jobs filter. You see the plus sign here, just click on this. It shows the list of epics that you have. So if you have 10 epics, all of them are going to be displayed here, but I only created 2. So you click on job search experience, and just like that, you have been able to link your user stories to epics. So it's very simple. It is all very simple. Now this is your backlog. All right, now we want to move this into our sprint backlog and start our sprint. All you need to do is just drag and drop. You can drag it up here. All right, drag this one up here as well and drag the third one up here. So this is where prioritization comes in. So you have prioritized, I've said that out of the 4 tasks I had on my backlog, I want to work on these 3 first. So I just did drag and drop. No magic. You just drag it and drop it where you want it to be. And then you click on start sprint. So of course, if you had team members on here, you can go ahead to assign, team members to start working on this project. But I'm the only one on this board. But just like that, your project has started, your sprint has started, and then you can track. So if I assign this particular task to Ibrahim, you see it shows unassigned here because there's no one on the board. But if I assign this particular task to Ibrahim, I assign this one to Sethlin, and I assign this one to Muiwa. Once Muiwa starts working on his task, it can move it to in progress, right? And then once Ibrahim starts working on his task, it can move it to in progress. And once Ibrahim is done, he can just drag and drop and put it on that done. Now, this way, the business analyst is able to see when the team members have started working on their tasks and when they are done with their task. So JIRA really helps us to track progress. You can add as many columns as you want. So you can put under review as well. So I just created a new column. Let's wait for that to reflect and let's move it to this point. So what that means is we have to do when you have not started working on the task. Once you start working on the task, you move it to in progress. And then once you're done, you can move it to under review. So whoever comes here and sees that this task is under review would know that, oh, okay, so I think Elizabeth is actually reviewing this task, or the tester is reviewing this. And once the tester is done, can be moved to done. It's very simple. Of course, there are a lot more things that go into, creating, managing projects using JIRA. But in order for you to see that, we cannot cover that in 1 hour. Okay, in order for you to be able to see that, you need to register for a program here at Analytics. I'm going to be walking you through just how you can do that. Okay, so now let's come back to our presentation. All right, so when we talk about the jobs that have, what tech skills are you able to learn and get a job quickly? Now, if you remember at the beginning of the session, I mentioned the list of all the programs that we offer, right? How are we sure? You could be asking yourself right now, why business analysis? How am I sure, that AI is not coming to take over my job, right? As a business analyst, how am I sure that if I even learn this thing, Elizabeth is talking about it right now, and it sounds very, very interesting and very easy. But how am I sure that if I learn it, I'll even be able to get a job as a business analyst? Oh, I'm in Canada. How am I sure that, there's actually a high demand for jobs in that space as well? So I'm going to tell you the strategy, what exactly we did to be able to come up with all of these programs that we offer, business analysis, and how we can vouch for them. All right. So every single year, here at Analytics, what we do is we go and scrape different job boards, like your LinkedIn, your quick hire, okay? Quick hire that we just worked on, LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, your CV library, your Monster, a lot of them. There are over 20 job boards out there. So we scrape every single one of them across the different regions. So whether it's the UK, whether it's the US, whether it is Canada. All right, now we're scraping them and we're looking for jobs that have, the most frequent listings. So what that means is we're trying to see, how many times a job was posted. So for example, let's say we scraped LinkedIn in 2024. And then we saw that, in the entire 2024 alone, there were about 50,000 job listings for the role of a business analyst. Now, what that would signify is that, I think they're really looking for business analysts because they put out 50,000 jobs for the role of a business analyst. So there are a lot of, there are a lot of jobs that will come up when we scrape them, when we scrape these different job boards. We find a lot of jobs and, we're able to look at them and say, oh, we have found 100 jobs. Now we can't just, offer all 100. So let's see what we can do. So the next thing we do is we conduct an internal data analysis. All right. We have data analysts in-house that take a look at this for us because we've scraped data. We've gotten the data from the job boards. Now they need to analyze it. And they analyze this data using 3 different criteria. The first criterion is ease of learning. So how easy, now that we've seen that these are the jobs, this list of 100 jobs are the jobs that recruiters are looking for, all right? There's a very high demand for these jobs. How easy is it to actually learn the skills that are required for this job? Now, I'll give you an example of a job that is in high demand, but we are not offering it, okay? Let's talk about robotics engineering. So when we conducted our analysis, we actually found robotics engineering as one of the top, the jobs that they're looking for. All right. But is it easy to learn the skills that you need to have to become a robotics engineer? Can you just wake up one day, you have been a teacher for 10 years and you're like, oh, I don't want to be a teacher anymore. I want to be a robotics engineer. Is it that easy to get the skill? All right. Can you learn robotics engineering in 6 months or in 4 months or in 5 months? The answer is no. All right. You need at least 18 months, almost 2 years, at the very least, minimum of almost 2 years to learn, robotics engineering. And even at that, you can't just, wake up and say you want to learn. You also need to have, a specific background to be able to get into robotics engineering. So by virtue of that alone, from this first criterion, robotics engineering is off the list. Now, that's just an example. There were multiple, jobs that did not make the cut. Now, the second criterion is ease of transitioning. So how easy is it for you to transition into this job? Not just transition, but actually thrive in that job. Now, how easy is it for you to, what skills do you have? Because you have been a teacher for 10 years, or you have been a nurse for 10 years, for the past 10 years. What skills do you already have as a nurse or as a teacher that you can leverage in this new, course or this career that you're trying to get into? So it's not like you're coming in as a newborn baby, all right? Because you're not a newborn baby, all right? You have years of experience. So how can you make sure that you're not trashing your years of experience? You're still using it for something else. So like I said, how easy is it to transition, into this new role that you're trying to get into? And finally, the last criterion is high rewarding salary. So does this job pay well? I mean, that's why a lot of us are on here today. We hear a lot about tech money. So we want to make sure that, yes, these jobs are in high demand, but they also pay well. All right. This is not a care job. They pay well. All right. They pay, 6 figures every single year. And when we finish that analysis, we're able to come up with these 8 programs that we offer. I'm not going to talk about the remaining 7 because it's none of our business. We're here, to learn about business analysis. But then we didn't stop there. We decided to seek external validation. So we wanted to make sure that we're not being biased. All right. So, a lot of times you're cooking, you have to call somebody to help you taste your food to know if there's enough salt or if the rice is soft enough. Now, the reason for that is because there's always a bias that comes with things that we do by ourselves. So we said, in as much as we carried out this data analysis, internal data analysis, we could be making a mistake. So how about we go out there and look for people that don't know 10 analytics at all, people that don't have any affiliations whatsoever with 10 analytics, and let's see what they have to say about this matter. So we decided to seek external validation. Then we found the World Economic Forum. right? The Future of Jobs report that was released January 2025. Now, this is available for everyone on the web, but remember to fill the attendance form my colleagues are dropping, because I also made sure to link all these resources. All right. So you don't just have to take my word for it. You can see for yourself. I linked all of these resources on this slide. So if you fill the attendance form, we'll be able to send you the recording of this session, especially when I was working on JIRA. So you can go over it again and again, and also the resources that are linked on this slide. Now, what did the World Economic Forum say? What did the Future of Jobs report for 2025 say? It says in the next 5 years, which means by 2030, this is 2025. In the next 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, in the next 5 years, 170 million jobs will be created, while 92 million jobs will disappear. So you can see on my screen, this is just a snapshot of the report. You see 3 color codes. You see the red, you see the blue, and you see the green. All right, the red, the boxes that are in red signify the jobs that are going to disappear. The boxes in blue signify the stable, jobs, and then the boxes in green signify, the jobs that will be created. Now, each box you can see here represents 1 million jobs, each box. So you can imagine how many boxes you see here. All right. You can imagine how many boxes you see here. What you just want to do is you want to do whatever it is you're doing, you want to make sure you're not in the red zone. Move to the blue zone or even the green zone. All right. Now let's go ahead. Now, we went ahead to take a look at this report further, and we were able to identify the in-demand career paths. Like I said, this report is linked here. All right, so you can click here to download the full report once you get this slide. Make sure to fill the attendance form. And then we were able to find out that, business analysis is actually one of the in-demand career paths. All right, so this just supported our data analysis that we carried out. So we are seeing what the World Economic Forum is also saying about business analysis. It's one of the in-demand career paths, right? The fastest growing jobs. Now let's take a look at success stories. I don't like to talk a lot. I don't like to brag, all right? So I don't like to talk about success stories a lot. But, we always say something here at 10 Analytics that it seems impossible until it is done. You're asking yourself, I've been a teacher for 10 years. I've been a nurse for 8 years. I'm a midwife. Elizabeth is just talking right now. I don't think it's possible for me to, break into tech just like that with no prior experience. And I'm here to tell you that, there are a lot of people on my slides right now. If they've been able to do it, you can do it too. All right. If you joined the session at the very beginning, you'd have seen some videos playing from our YouTube channel. A lot of people, real people like you and I, speaking about their experience and how we've been able to move them from the classroom and help them get a job. All right. There's some success stories here. I'm not going to waste time on this, because if I start talking about success stories, we'll probably be on this session, for 12 hours. But, Lois was an accountant. Let's use Lois as an example. Lois was an accountant and also a procurement specialist with 0 experience in tech. She was just an accountant. She studied finance. All right. Now, she joined our business analysis training program, and afterwards, she was able to secure a job as a business analyst in the UK after completing the training. Now, this is someone like you and I, with 0 experience in tech. She was able to secure a job as a business analyst in the UK. A testimonial is also linked here. Once you get this slide, you can click here, on your own time and watch all these videos and see what all these people have to say. There's so many of them. All right. We can have an entire session dedicated to just testimonials alone. So we're just going to skip right through and talk about who a business analyst is. Now, if you have been listening to me up until this point, please put an emoji in the chat. Any emoji. If you have been listening to me, I see Samsung saying, where do I write my attendance? Fill the attendance form so that you can get the access to the slides. All right. If you have been listening to me till this point, okay, I see Muiwa, I see Pretty Damsel, I see Iyanoloa. Thank you so much. All right. So I know that people are not sleeping. Okay, that's fantastic. So who is a business analyst? Because a lot of us are here. We want to become business analysts. We don't exactly know what they do. So who is a business analyst? Now, when we talk about business analysts, we talk about people who optimize processes. I was speaking earlier, I said a business analyst is the bridge right, between the non-technical stakeholders, like the middleman between the non-technical stakeholders and then the technical stakeholders. And a business analyst is responsible for ensuring effective communication and understanding of requirements. So yes, you're getting requirements from your stakeholders. You're speaking to the users. You have been able to elicit requirements. Now, how do you make sure that the technical people, the developers, how do you make sure they understand these requirements? You are that bridge. You're that middleman between these two, different stakeholders. All right. Now, I like to use little stories or, just examples to also explain the role of a business analyst. Now, as a business analyst, you also optimize processes for organizations. Now, regardless of whatever organization it is that you find yourself, regardless of the sector, whether it's healthcare, whether it's finance, you want to optimize the processes of that organization, meaning you want to make things work better. You're looking at how things are currently working and thinking of how you can make that thing better for that organization, not just for the organization, but also not just for the business or the organization, but also for the customers. So say, for example, I want to paint a scenario now and I want to see our questions in the chat. So let's say we have two different online stores, that sell bags. All right, two different online stores that sell bags. Now, one of them, they both sell beautiful bags, by the way. One of them, once you place an order for a bag, you get your bag in 5 to 10 business days. And then for the second one, once you place an order for your bag, you get your bag in like same day delivery or next day delivery. Which of these businesses would you patronize? Business A, you get your bag in 5 to 10 business days, and business B, you get your bag in 1 business day. Which one would you patronize? Just put the letter in the chat. Business A or business B? Ifechukwu says B. Okay, I need more people. Ibrahim says B. Fantastic. The answer is very simple. Because of course, as a customer, you want to get what you're paying for on time. Now, the reason business B is able to do that is because they have a business analyst. Don't worry, work with me. I'm going to paint a scenario for you. So now business A, the way business A operates is that they have someone manning the phones. All right. They have someone, manning the phones, a customer, success representative. So there's someone that's picking the phone when you call. Now, if you want to place an order for a dress or a bag, pardon, you have to call the customer care. The person has a pen and a big ledger right in front of them. They pick up the phone and they say, hi, ma'am. So what would you like to buy? And you tell the person, oh, I want to buy your burgundy bag. I want it in big size. And the person is writing down everything manually. That's what business A does, right? So the person is writing down everything manually. The person asks you for your name, your address, everything. And then the person is writing everything down. And the person says, okay, we've taken your order. The person calls the account number for you and you make payments. All right. Now the person hangs up the phone. And because of course there are a lot of calls coming in, the person keeps taking calls. Now the person has to also go to the warehouse. The person is probably not able to go to the warehouse till day 3 after you made your order. Now the person goes to the warehouse to actually go and check inventory to make sure that that bag is actually still in stock. All right. If the bag is not in stock, they try to rush production to produce that bag because people have already paid for it. But if the bag is in stock, so now the person now calls the logistics company that is going to come and, that's responsible for shipping this bag to come and pick up. Now, logistics company maybe takes 2 days to come to the warehouse, pick up, and then deliver to you. That's what business A is doing. However, business B was doing the same thing until they met a business analyst, until they met Keon. And then Keon says to business B, I think there's a way we can do this better. Instead of all these calls, because what is going to lead to, that's a process. What it's going to lead to is that, the person that is taking the orders, the customer care, she's going to get tired. It's not easy to be taking orders non-stop all through the day. And then she'll start making mistakes. And then, Opeyemi ordered for a burgundy bag. And when she gets it, it's a blue bag. And then there are a lot of reviews online. People are bashing the business and saying, oh, they keep making silly mistakes. This is not what I ordered versus what I got, right? The business is trending all over social media. So Keon says, how about we build a website, a simple website, and we put our bag on the website. Now they are, right underneath the image of the bag, you're able to see the different sizes we have. You see the small size, the medium size, and the large size. You just pick which one you want. and then, you enter your delivery details and all of that, and you check out. Now, once you do that, we're also going to have an inventory management system on this website. So there is actually a number on the site. So the number would say right under the image of the bag, it will say 23 items in stock, 50 items in stock. All right. And once someone makes an order or a purchase, the number immediately goes down to 49. So now what that means is it's automated. The process is automated. Nobody is going to the warehouse to check if there is a bag or not. We already knew that we batch produced 100 bags and we put it right there on the site. Right. And as people are making orders, the number is dropping. Now, once that person makes an order and the person checks out, an email is automatically generated and is sent to the owner of the business or whoever is in charge, right? And you get an email. So even if you're asleep, you're sleeping and you wake up, you find out that you have 50 orders. You've gotten an email with all their details. You didn't have to sit at the phone and start, taking their orders one by one. You get an email, with all the details for each purchase. And then you just send that to the people at the warehouse, they pack it and they ship it out. That's what Business B does. Now, that is an improved and a better process. And that process would not have been possible if Keon, the business analyst, did not walk into that business. So this, little story, is the role of a business analyst. We can liken it to healthcare. We can liken it to finances. Just know that as a business analyst, you are optimizing processes. You're looking at how things are working and how you can make it better. Now, what are the things you'll be learning as a business analyst here at Analytics? We'll start off with, process mapping, because I talked about processes now, and you cannot change things if you don't map them out, if you don't, observe and then sit down and say, you know what, let me sketch out this process. Let me see how it works. So step one, the customer calls the customer care representative. Step two, the representative picks the call and takes the order, writes it down. Step three, you have to actually map out this process. All right. But now, because we're techies, all right, we're tech gurus, we don't have to use pen and paper. There's software that you can use for that. So you'll be learning process mapping using Lucidchat and Draw.io. So you can map out the current process, which is the bad process, right? And a lot of times when you sketch something out, you're also able to spot the bottlenecks or the problems with that process. All right, because you can visualize the process. So you'll be learning how you can use Lucidchat to sketch your process, map out your process, your current process, and then the optimized process that you're proposing for that business or that organization. All right, you use tools like Lucidchat or Draw.io for that. And then now we realize that, especially in the global space right now, recruiters are not just looking for business analysts. I'll say, hi, my name is Keon. I can help you optimize your processes. No, especially in these big companies. They also want a business analyst who understands data. To some extent, like you see the business data of that organization, you're able to make sense of it. You don't say, oh, I don't understand this. Do you have a data analyst? So what we did is we went into the data analytics program and we borrowed, the 3 data tools that they have: Excel, Power BI, and SQL. Now, every single tool that you're going to hear me speak about today, you're actually going to be learning them from scratch. So you don't need to worry, you don't need to bother about, oh, I'm a beginner, I'm a midwife, I'm a nurse, I'm a teacher, I'm a lecturer, I've never used Excel before, I've never used Lucidchat before. How will I cope? Right? We take all our participants as blank slates. All right, so you're coming in here and we're teaching you from scratch. We're taking it from the very basics. So for Excel, for example, we start off with, what is a row in Excel? All right, what is a column in Excel, right? What are the different formulas and functions in Excel? So making sure that, we take you from, point A to point B when it comes to Excel. Also SQL, which is what we call the language of data. So making sure that you understand how the database, communicates. How can you communicate with the database? So if you get data, how can you query that data to get insights from that data? And also Power BI to prepare reports. All right, so you want to report to the leadership of that organization. How do you visualize your reports? How do you visualize your data? How do you visualize the insights that you've gotten from your data? Now, we didn't stop there. We also went into Agile project management, and we borrowed these 2 courses, numbers 3 and 4, project initiation planning and Agile and Scrum for projects. Now, the reason for this is simple. All right, a lot of times you propose a new process in an organization, it's a project. Like I said earlier, when Keon, went to Business B and said, how about we build a website? Now that is a project. And if Business B doesn't have a project manager on ground to handle that project. They'll look at Kion and say, it's your idea. You brought this idea. How about you execute it for us? So we're also going to be teaching you how you can start projects, how you can initiate projects and plan for projects as a project manager, by the way, and what the agile methodology is and what the Scrum framework is and how you can apply it to projects. So someone asked me earlier why you were using Scrum. Okay, you see it here. You're going to be learning all of that and how you can apply this to projects that you're working on in that organization. Then from numbers 5 to 9, you have your core business analysis courses, right? Software development, life cycle, requirements fundamentals, elicitation method, different methods you can use to elicit requirements from your different stakeholders, your stakeholder analysis, being able to identify and analyze the different stakeholders you have in your organization, and also how you can engage with these people. All right, the way you engage with a stakeholder, an external stakeholder, will be different from the way you engage with someone on your team. So understanding these different engagement techniques and how you can apply them in real time. And finally, instead of competing with AI, instead of being scared that AI is coming to take your job, how about you make AI your employee? How about you leverage AI and use AI to your advantage as a business analyst? So you're not competing with AI, you're not running a race, because AI is here to stay. So it's high time we start learning how we can also use AI to make our jobs simpler and faster for us. So you're going to also be learning ChatGPT with business analysis. And the beautiful part of this is that every single thing I mentioned here, from process mapping to Excel to Power BI, you're learning them using projects. So you're not just coming to class to read a textbook. You're not just coming to class to understand the definition. From your very first live class here at Analytics, you'll be learning all of them using projects, hands-on projects. You have data sets to work with. You have processes to map out. So you're getting your hands dirty. Now, the tools you'll be learning: Excel, SQL, Power BI, Lucidchart, Draw.io, JIRA software, Confluence, Trello, and Azure DevOps as well. Now, at Analytics, when it comes to the learning structure, we have a blended learning approach. So you have a blend of live classes and self-paced learning. All right, so for the live classes, you have 2 live classes on 2 Saturdays out of 4 Saturdays in a month. So 2 Saturdays, you have the live class, right? So 2 live classes a month, right? And for the live classes, we also have different timings just to make it more convenient, because people are working, all right? This is not high school. We have a life outside of this. We have kids, we have jobs out there. So you have the morning class, which is 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. West African time, or the evening class, which is 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. West African time. So you're able to join any one of these 2, right? So you have to pick the one that conveniently, fits your schedule. But, the catch is you can only go with one of them. You can only pick one. So if you pick the morning class, you stay with the morning class till the end of the program. And if you pick the evening class, you also stay with the evening class till the end of the program. And then we have the self-paced, the watch me do it videos. So upon registration, every single person is added to our learning management system, again, for flexibility. And you have pre-recorded videos of professionals who are working on projects that you can watch at your spare time. You're doing the dishes, you plug in, you're on your way to work, you're in the train, you can also listen in as well. So you are listening to all of these videos and you have lifetime access to them, by the way. And you can write down your questions if you have any and bring it to another live session we have that is called a drop-in session. Now, drop-in sessions are live sessions such as this. You can see the face of the facilitator. The person is sharing their screen. But the difference this time around is you can unmute your mic. You can also do that in live classes, by the way. But in drop-in sessions, you ask questions. So if you've been watching some videos, Kian says, hi, Elizabeth, I've been trying to work on the project you assigned to me. I've been trying with Excel. I'm not really getting it. Can I share my screen and show you? And you can actually do that. So we have drop-in sessions that happen twice a week, on Wednesdays and also on Saturdays when you don't have live classes. So bear in mind, the drop-in session is also a live session. All right. And now I want to preface this by saying every single live session here at Analytics is always recorded, just like this one happening right now. All right. So the live classes, mentorship sessions, drop-in sessions, everything is recorded. So if for any reason you miss a class, you have access to the recording to watch after, even if you don't miss it and you want to just, have a replay of what happened in that session, you have access to it. Now, for the learning timeline, our learning timeline is 8 months for this program. All right. You're going to be spending 6 months learning in class with us and then 2 months of internship with our partner company, Amdari. Now, Amdari is a consulting company that is registered in the UK. All right, you're going to be spending 2 months of, 2 months with them to just get more hands-on experience. So in as much as you worked on a lot of projects in class, then you go into into the real world and see a simulation of how it's going to look as a business analyst in a cross-functional team working on different projects. Okay, so now there are different careers you can start upon completing the program. You're not boxed into business analysts. All right. Oh, I'm a business analyst. I took a business analyst course. You can work as a process automation analyst. You can work as a business process analyst. You can work as a business architect, business systems analyst, process improvement analyst, IT business analyst, and so on and so forth. All right. There are a lot of different roles and different jobs, different careers that you can start once you complete this program. Now, another thing I neglected to mention is that business analysis is also very versatile. All right. So you see, we had elements of data analytics in there. We had elements of, project management in there. And then we had the core business analysis. So it's 3-in-1. And what that means is upon completing the program, you can work in some roles as a data analyst, and you can also work as a project manager. So you can work as a data analyst, a project manager, and also a business analyst if you so choose. All right. Now, all of our programs come with internship to make your CV and your portfolio also stand out. Now, make sure to fill the attendance form. There's a link to one of the portfolios, one of our business analysts, people that trained with us, have actually built. And then you can, take a sneak peek, just take a look at this portfolio and see all of the projects that this person worked on while they were taking the program with us. Now, here at Analytics, we have a job offer formula. It's simple mathematics, all right? It's addition. It says technical skills plus employability skills equals to job offer, all right? What that means is, your technical skills is just not enough. It's just 50%. So you learn Excel, you learning JIRA, you learning ChatGPT, Power BI. That is just 50% of what you stand to gain here at Analytics. We also have the other 50%, which is your employability skills. That's how you stand out. Your technical skills alone cannot get you the job. Now, when we talk about employability skills, we're talking about revamping your CV. All right, so we are going to help you to revamp your CV, just to better position yourself out there. And now we don't just give you fish, we also teach you how to fish. So we teach you how you can tailor your CV to multiple jobs to actually beat the applicant tracking system. Next is LinkedIn optimization. So we're also going to teach you how you can optimize your LinkedIn, because your social presence is just as important. All right. I personally cannot remember the last time I applied to any job. All right. I always get reached out, by recruiters on LinkedIn, and that's because they like what they see. So how do you optimize your LinkedIn? How do you strategically position yourself so that in as much as you're searching for jobs, recruiters are also starting conversations with you as well? Next is navigating the job market. This is where we bring the founder of Analytics, Adeza Suleiman, to also share, some insights on how you can go about navigating the job market. This is new terrain. All right, we have people that have not been business analysts before. You need that hand holding. You need someone to hold your hand and tell you this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do. We also bring people that have graduated from Analytics, for lack of a better word, people that have taken the business analysis program, graduated and landed jobs, that they come back to the classroom to give you tips and advice, tell you, what, I was in your shoes just a few months back, I landed a job and this is what I did. This is what worked for me. So you can also utilize that as well. Next is interview preparatory session. So yes, you're sending out your CV. You get an interview invitation. Now you can book a one-on-one session with a professional here at Analytics to prep you for that interview. So what's going to happen is there's going to be an interview simulation that is carried out for you. So that person is going to tell you, oh, answer this question this way. These are the kind of questions you should expect. If you're asked this, this is how you should answer, just give you tips and boost your confidence so you are ready to go into the main job interview. Now, the next is job reference letter. So, we always tell our participants to not put it out there that you trained with Analytics, rather say you consulted with us. So if you say you consulted with us, you are able to list us as a previous employer. And once you do that, we're able to also provide a job reference and recommendation letter to you. Next is on the job support. So, this is not really popular, but once you get a job, right? Your first, maybe 1 month, you are still shaky, you don't know how to carry out certain tasks, you can always come back to us here at Analytics. Book a one-on-one call with us, and we'll provide you with guidance on how you can go about that task. Next is weekly mentorship sessions. Like the name implies, you have mentorship sessions that happen every single week. Every Thursday, you have a mentorship session. And finally, last but not the least, Upwork optimization sessions for people that are interested in freelancing. All right. So we have a lot more success stories on here. Once you get the slides, you can also go over them yourself. But let's jump right into it. If you like everything you've been hearing so far, we have a new cohort that is starting on the 9th of August. And this is me telling you that you should join our next cohort. So it starts on the 9th of August. And, right now, our business analysis program is priced at $900 US. But here's the thing, there is a special discount right now. So for the first 20 people that get to register for business analysis, you get to pay $750 US instead of $900 US. All right. This is just for the first 20 people. It's an early bird discount. So you click on this link here and it opens up the Analytics Enrollment Center. So let's just give that, a little time to come up as well. All right. So it opens up the Analytics Enrollment Center where you're able to, just scroll down on this site, scroll down and identify the program you're going for. So we're going for business analysis. You just want to click on register for business analysis. So once you click on that, it opens up the payment plan. We have a payment plan available for you and you're able to pay in installment. All right. And guess what? You are also able to pay in any currency. So whether you want to pay in Naira, whether you want to pay in pounds, you're able to do that. If you want to pay in USD, Canadian dollars, Australian dollars, you're able to do that as for currency. That's $750 to the equivalent in local currency. All right, so let's take a look at it in USD. So you're able to also see how much you can pay in your local currency. And you can see it here, you are going to pay $750 US. Now, if you're going to pay once or twice, because you're able to split your payments as many as 5 times. If you're going to pay once or twice, we took off an extra $50. Okay, so instead of $750, you get to pay $700 if you're paying once or twice. But once you start to split your payments, 3, 4, or 5 times, you pay $750. Mind you, this is still the discounted price. All right, and right now it says 11 seats available. What that means is 9 people have already secured their spots using this discounted price. Now, I can't tell you for a fact that, this discount is going to be on till the 30th of July. Remember, it is slot-based and not time-bound. So what that means is that if we have 11 people, out of all the people on this call right now, if you have 11 people secure a seat right now, tonight, the discount is over. And the price of the program goes back up to $900 US. All right? So you want to try as much as possible to secure your spot as soon as you can. Now, I know there are questions in the chat. We are way over time. So what I'm just going to do is, if you have more questions for me, you can have a one-on-one session with myself or any one of my colleagues. Just make sure you head over to the, to the Analytics Enrollment Center and, secure your spot before anything, because it is grab your copy now. All right, secure your spots before anything. Then after securing your spots, you can, highlight that you would like to speak with a professional. So once you secure your spots, let's pick, 5 monthly payments and you click on secure your seat. It simply shows you that you're paying $150 US, every month for 5 months. So that means you're already in the program, you're already in the cohort for August, you're learning already, you're paying in August, you pay in September, October, November. You're getting all the value that you need to get while you're still making payments. So once you click on proceed, it asks you to put in your card details and all of that fun stuff. Once you make payment, I want you to take a screenshot of the payment receipts and come back to this main site here and click on upload your receipt. So once you click on upload your receipt here, we will have all your details. And then, a rep from Analytics would reach out to you and go about just getting you in class for August. So again, once you're clicking on this, that's where you'll be able to signify if you would like to speak to a professional. All right. You can speak to myself, have a one-on-one discussion with myself or a colleague of mine. If you have additional questions, I will be more than happy to answer those questions for you before the August cohort commences. So just make sure before you do anything, just make sure to try and secure your spot. If you're one of the, the lucky 11 people that gets to pay $750 instead of $900. All right. So I see my colleagues already put the link in the chat. Just make sure, you click on that link. Okay. So now we have actually, come to the end of this session. Like I said, there are a lot of, resources on these slides for you. All right, just make sure to fill the attendance form. Make sure to fill it so you can have access to this and all of the resources linked on here. Even the link to the enrollment center is also linked here, and you can also have access to that as well. So, okay, if you have additional questions, make sure to book your slot and, indicate that you would like to speak to a professional. So this session has come to an end. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to me. Thank you for staying as long as you did. And you know what? I will see you when I see you. All right. So please enjoy the rest of your day and bye for now.